Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
I thought it was a joke, until I was walking out with my box. My name is Derek Lawson. I'm 41 years old. I live in Sacramento, California. I'd worked at Walton Hughes for 11 years, built the vendor relations team from scratch, survived 2 restructures, and helped close enough deals to fund 2 regional expansions. I wasn't just good at my job, I was the guy you came to when everything was about to fall apart. And I was fired by the vending machine. It was a Tuesday morning. I was in the break room pouring half and half into a paper cup of burnt coffee, trying to summon the will to read through a messy contract draft when Carter walked in. Carter Hughes, the founder's son, recently installed as CEO with a shiny MBA and the emotional range of a parking meter. He didn't nod, didn't speak, just stared at me like I was a roach on his Armani loafers. Derek, my office, now. No greeting, no eye contact, no time to respond. He just walked away like I was expected to follow, like a dog. I should have sensed it then. The air was too quiet, too still. I followed him, coffee in hand, wondering if he needed input on the Bramwell proposal or clarification on the Medway terms. He didn't even sit. He just turned to me and said, "You're fired." My hand froze halfway to my lips. "What?" "You're lazy. You coast. You don't add value anymore. Clean out your desk." I thought it was a prank. Some absurd, cruel exercise in dominance. I laughed, softly, thinking maybe he'd crack a smile. He didn't. "I want you out in the next hour." That was it. No meeting with HR, no exit interview, no acknowledgement of the fact I'd spent over a decade helping make that company profitable. I packed my things in silence. My team stared as I walked out. A few avoided eye contact. A couple looked heartbroken. My assistant Michelle mouthed, "What the hell?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I sat in my car for 10 minutes after that, just staring at the wheel. I kept going over his words. "You're lazy." It wasn't just the insult, it was how confident he sounded saying it, like he'd rehearsed it, like it was personal. And the more I sat there, the more I realized this wasn't about performance. This was about something Carter didn't know, something he should have read, something that was about to blow up in his face. The next morning, I was sitting on my couch in sweatpants, eating cereal dry out of the box and trying not to spiral. I hadn't slept much. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Carter's face, blank and smug, like firing me was just another Tuesday. Like I hadn't built that vendor pipeline from nothing. Like I hadn't trained half the people now pretending not to know me. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost let it go. My gut said ignore it. Probably some recruiter trying to sell me a once-in-a-lifetime insurance role. But something told me to answer. "Hello?" A familiar voice, deep, measured. "Derek, it's Martin Cole." I blinked. "Mr. Cole?" Martin was the founder. The Martin and Walton Hughes Martin before the merger, technically retired but still on the board, still with more influence than anyone wanted to admit, including Carter. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Good to hear from you." "I just got off the phone with someone from legal," he said. "They told me you were let go yesterday." "That's correct." "Did you resign?" I actually laughed. "No, sir. Your son fired me, called me lazy, told me to pack my things." There was a pause, the kind that doesn't come from shock, but from quiet calculation. "Did he read your contract?" "Doubt it. He barely looked at me." More shuffling on the other end. Pages turning, a faint curse under his breath. "God damn it," he muttered. "Sir? You're the only one with signatory authority for Bramwell." I sat up straighter. "Come again?" "There's a clause in your employment agreement, Section 7A. When we renegotiated your role last year, I insisted that any contracts initiated under your management had to be finalized by you. Legal never updated that authority. You're the only person who can close the Bramwell deal." My heart thumped. Bramwell. A $12 million contract. Our biggest partner expansion in 5 years. Carter had been bragging about it for weeks, how he was going to finalize it, turn it into his first major CEO win. Except he couldn't, because of me. Martin sighed on the other end. "I'm assuming Carter didn't consult legal, or the contract database. He's about to walk into that meeting empty-handed." I ran a hand down my face. "What do you want me to do?" "I want to know what you want to do." I paused, because for the first time since getting fired, I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I was curious. Because Carter hadn't just screwed up, he'd underestimated me, and now the power was on my side. "I'm going to think about that," I said. Martin's voice dropped an octave. "Derek, I'm sorry. I never wanted things to go this way. He's not me." "I know." Another pause. "Keep your phone on," he said. "This isn't over." Click. I sat there in silence for a minute, phone still warm in my hand. Then I looked down at the Bramwell folder still sitting on my coffee table, and I smiled for the first time in days. By 10 a.m. that same morning, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Calls from numbers I recognized, corporate, legal, accounting, all of them letting it ring 3-4 times before hanging up and calling again. I didn't answer a single one, not because I didn't want to, because I wanted them to sweat. The voicemails were a circus. Hey Derek, just following up on something quick. Call me when you can, no rush. Derek, we need to touch base urgently about Bramwell. Please reach out ASAP. Mr. Lawson, this is Gina from Legal. We're reviewing some contract language and would appreciate your insight today. No one said it outright. Not one of them used the word fired. But you could hear it in their voices. The careful tone, the panicked edges, the way they danced around it like I'd simply stepped out for lunch and forgotten to come back for 24 hours. Still no call from Carter, until Nicole called. Nicole Ames, marketing director. We started at the same time, 11 years ago, back when the company still fit in one floor of a rented office building near downtown. We weren't close, but we respected each other. She was one of the few who stayed decent during the first round of layoffs, and that was enough for me. I answered. Derek? Nicole? Oh my God, you're answering. Are you watching this unfold, or are you just letting it burn from a distance? I chuckled. Bit of both. She lowered her voice. Martin ripped Carter apart, in front of the entire board. I leaned back on the couch. Tell me everything. Okay, so apparently Carter walked into the pre-meeting with Legal and the Bramwell reps like he was the king of the castle. Said he'd finalize the contract, give them the green light, all that. Then Martin walks in holding a printed copy of your contract and says, "You didn't read the clause, did you?" I blinked. He said that? In front of everyone. I swear Carter looked like he'd just swallowed a live bee. Legal tried to play it cool, said it was a minor oversight, but Martin wouldn't let it go. He just looked at Carter and said, "You fired the only person who can legally close this deal." Then he turned to the Bramwell guys and said, "We'll be in touch shortly." Jesus. He was ice cold, and Carter, he didn't say a word, just stood there like someone had unplugged him. I couldn't stop smiling. And the board? Dead silent. Not one of them backed Carter up. Not even Shelley from finance. And she'd vote for a brick if it promised to lower vendor costs. Wow. People are talking, Derek, like a lot. Half the floor thinks Carter's getting pushed out. Martin called an emergency session for this afternoon, and HR's been locked in their office all morning. I let that sit for a moment. Still no apology. From Carter? Are you kidding? He'll try to save face before he admits he screwed up. Of course. Nicole hesitated. You gonna take the calls? I'll think about it. She lowered her voice even more. Good. Make them crawl. We hung up, and I sat there staring at my phone, still buzzing on and off with calls I wasn't going to answer. I wasn't looking for revenge, but I'll be damned if I didn't enjoy watching Carter try to clean up a mess he made because he thought I was disposable. Turns out firing me was the worst decision he ever made, and everyone in that boardroom knew it. The message came at 6:42 p.m. Martin Cole. Can we meet tomorrow morning? Just us. I owe you an apology. I stared at the screen for a second, then typed one word. Sure. But I wasn't walking back in as the same guy who got fired over a vending machine coffee. Not this time. I stayed up late drafting terms, pulled up my original contract, took notes, drew a line down the middle of a yellow legal pad, old Derek on the left, new Derek on the right. When I was done, the difference was night and day. No more gutting it out in silence. No more quietly fixing what other people broke. If they wanted me back, it was going to be on my terms. I arrived at headquarters just before 9 a.m. The lobby hadn't changed. Still had the stale citrus air freshener and fake ferns that somehow collected dust anyway. I hadn't set foot inside since Carter fired me. Heads turned. People stared. Some whispered. One guy from accounting actually nodded at me like I was walking out of a slow-motion explosion in an action movie. I walked straight past reception and toward the executive wing. Martin was waiting in the boardroom, standing near the head of the table. When he saw me, he actually stepped forward and offered his hand. "You didn't deserve that," he said. I shook it. "No, I didn't." He nodded like that hurt to admit, but he didn't flinch. "I can't undo what Carter did, but I'd like to offer you the chance to finish what you started. Let's talk." We sat. I pulled out a folder. Martin raised an eyebrow. "I don't want my old job back," I said. "I want more." He didn't interrupt, just waited. "First, a new contract, clean slate, title stays the same, head of vendor strategy, but I want it restructured. I answer only to you. No interference from Carter. No sideline promotions where I end up training some junior exec who gets my credit. Done, Martin said immediately. I want full autonomy on Bramwell. That includes choosing my own team and negotiating support. No micromanagement, no politics. He nodded again. And I want it in writing, all of it, signed and filed before I step into another meeting. He let out a small breath. You're not playing around. No, I said. Not anymore. He slid a new contract across the table. Had legal prep this last night, based on your old terms, but updated with all the points you just made. I opened it, scanned the clauses. The language was tight, aggressive in all the right ways. No wiggle room. Martin wasn't bluffing. I looked up. You were ready for this. I knew the second you walked out with that box, Carter had just cost us more than we could afford. I signed. Slowly. Deliberately. He stood. Let's get you upstairs. The Bramwell team arrives in 48 hours. As we walked down the hallway, the silence was different. Not awkward, not hostile, respectful. I wasn't the guy who got fired anymore. I was the guy who got fired and walked back in with all the leverage. And everyone knew it. The Bramwell team arrived right on time. 3 black SUVs pulling up in front of the building, tinted windows and clean suits. I stood in the lobby, coffee in one hand, folder in the other, wearing the same navy blazer I'd worn the day Carter fired me. I'd thought about throwing it out. Now it felt like armor. As soon as their CEO stepped out of the car, Henrik Voss, tall, stern, all Northern European efficiency, I walked up and greeted him in Dutch. His eyebrows lifted in surprise. You spreek Netherlands? A little, I said with a smile, just enough to make an impression. He grinned, genuinely. You just did. We rode the elevator up together. Carter was nowhere in sight. Good. The conference room was set, water bottles lined up, presentation cued on the screen, every document printed and labeled in perfect order. I'd been back for less than 24 hours, and I already had my rhythm again. Because when the stakes were high, I didn't need time. I just needed the reins. Negotiations were smooth. Henrik's team was sharp, but they respected preparation, and I gave them that in spades. Every clause explained, every number justified, every question anticipated. The hours flew. At one point, Henrik looked across the table and said, "You're the reason we took the meeting." "Excuse me?" He tapped the contract folder. "We'd heard rumors you were no longer with Walton Hughes. If that had been true, we'd have walked." I nodded slowly. "I appreciate your honesty." He leaned back in his chair. "There's trust built here. Not with the company, with you. That's rare." 2 hours later, the deal was done. $12 million signed, sealed, and sealed again with a commemorative pen that someone in PR had rushed out to buy that morning. We stood and shook hands. Henrik clapped me on the shoulder. "Glad you're back where you belong." Outside the glass conference room walls, I saw Carter, pacing. He looked like a cornered animal, brow furrowed, hands on his hips, jaw tight. He wasn't part of the meeting. Martin had made sure of that. But he still hovered like a ghost, hoping to catch a glimpse of the thing he thought he could control. Martin joined us for the final handshake. He smiled, wide and satisfied, and said to Henrik, "We're lucky to have him." Henrik nodded. "I'd say so." As they left, Martin turned to me. Carter wanted to sit in. I told him no. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Carter stood 20 feet away, watching. I met his eyes for a second. He looked like he wanted to speak, wanted to explain, maybe spin things. But Martin walked right past him without a glance, and I followed. That was the last time I saw Carter that day. But I knew better than to think it was over. He wouldn't forget what happened. He wouldn't forgive it either. He'd just take it underground. That's how people like him work. When they lose publicly, they start looking for quieter ways to win. But I wasn't worried. I just closed the biggest deal in company history. I was walking through the halls not as an employee, but as a reminder. A reminder of what happened when you bet against the wrong person. And Carter, he'd just bet his whole reputation. And lost. It started small. Little things I almost missed. An expense report I submitted twice didn't get reimbursed. A client email I forwarded mysteriously vanished from the shared folder. A contract document I knew I'd signed showed up flagged as incomplete. At first, I chalked it up to admin glitches, someone in ops dragging their feet, an IT hiccup, a versioning error. That happens in big companies. You live with it. But then came the email. A Bramwell spreadsheet sent from my account to the entire executive team, except the numbers were wrong. Very wrong. Grossly inflated shipping costs, missing discount figures, errors that made it look like I didn't know what I was doing. At the bottom of the email it said, "Draft please advise ASAP. Derek." Except I never wrote that. I checked my outbox. Nothing. It wasn't there. I called it, quietly. Told them I thought my account had been used without my knowledge. I expected a shrug, maybe a vague promise to look into it. But they took it seriously, too seriously. "Can you come down right now?" the head of InfoSec asked. I walked into the IT office 10 minutes later. They'd already pulled logs, traced the IP. It was sent from inside the building, from a shared terminal in the executive bullpen, no login required. "We think someone copied your signature block and sent it manually," she said. Very deliberate, very quiet. I nodded once, jaw tight. "Can you get me everything? Logs, metadata, timestamps, all of it." We already started. By that afternoon, I had a printed log showing the exact moment it was sent. 2:14 p.m., same time I'd been in a strategy call with Bramwell. The desk it came from? One floor down, not my floor. I knew what was happening. Carter couldn't fire me again, so he switched tactics, undermining. Death by 1,000 digital paper cuts. I didn't tell Martin, not yet. I wanted more. I wanted proof stacked so high it couldn't be ignored, because Carter was smart in all the worst ways. He wouldn't touch a file directly. He'd whisper. He'd instruct. He'd manipulate someone else into pressing the keys. But I was smarter. I started documenting everything, every weird delay, every missing file, every login that didn't match my hours. I printed backup copies, took screenshots, sent encrypted versions to a personal drive, time-stamped, labeled. The next week, my team lead pulled me aside. "Hey, I noticed your calendar got wiped. Did you mean to do that?" I hadn't. Gone. All of it. Bramwell milestones, internal syncs, vendor check-ins. It was like someone had hit a magnet against my schedule and watched it collapse. I didn't react, just nodded and said I'd handle it. That night I stayed late, walked through every file, every folder, rebuilt what I could, saved what I couldn't, and every 10 minutes I'd glance at the door, waiting. I didn't know who Carter was using, but I knew this wasn't going to stop. Not until I pushed back. He wasn't trying to beat me, he was trying to erase me. But he forgot the most important thing. I write things down, and when the dust settled, I wasn't going to be the one without a record. Let Carter play games. I was building a case. It was a Thursday afternoon when I heard it. I'd stepped into the hallway to grab a bottle of water, passing by one of the conference rooms where Carter was meeting with 2 directors from strategic accounts. The glass walls did little to muffle sound, and I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. But then I heard my name. "Derek's not stable," Carter said, voice smooth, almost rehearsed. "He's erratic lately, a liability in high-stakes negotiations, not fit to manage client-facing deals." I stopped cold. The woman across from him, Lucinda Marsh, director of sales, nodded slowly. "Really? I hadn't noticed anything like that." He leaned in. "That's the problem. He hides it well." I took a breath and kept walking, the water bottle in my hand suddenly forgotten. My pulse thundered in my ears. I wasn't shocked, not really. Carter was trying to lay the groundwork, planting seeds of doubt. First the glitches, then the fake email, now quiet character assassination. He was playing the long game. But I had a game too. That night, as I was packing up, Martin stopped by my office. He leaned against the doorway like a man already burdened by something heavy. "Can I come in?" I motioned to the chair across from me. "Of course." He sat, rested his elbows on his knees. I launched an internal audit. I didn't answer right away. "Because of Carter?" "Because of what he did to you, and what I suspect he's still doing." I looked at him carefully. "Then why is he still here?" Martin didn't look away. "Because I had to see how far he'd go." I sat back. "You're using me as bait." I was, but not anymore. I felt that sentence in my chest, not as relief but as clarity, the same way you feel a final decision settle into place, like a door quietly closing. Martin exhaled. "The audit will take 2 weeks. I've brought in an external consultant, David Alston. Independent, neutral, quiet, no one sees him coming." I nodded slowly. "That explains why HR has been twitchy. He's reviewing system logs, contract histories, calendar changes. He's good. If Carter's been sloppy, we'll know." I met his eyes. "And if he hasn't?" Martin didn't blink. "Then I've failed as a father and a founder." There was a long silence between us. "Do you want him gone?" he asked. "I want the truth documented," I said. "No whispers, no rumors, just facts. And when it's done, I want him to know he lost." Martin nodded, stood, and turned to go, but I stopped him. "One more thing." He turned back. "What kind of legacy do you want?" I asked. He paused, then smiled. Tired, but real. The kind that survives after I'm gone. And then he left. I sat there for a long time after the door clicked shut, the office quiet around me. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the company, about Martin. About every person Carter had ever dismissed, mocked, pushed aside. This wasn't a vendetta, it was a reckoning, and I was done playing nice. The invite hit my inbox at 7:13 a.m. Subject: Audit Review, Executive Session Location. Boardroom A time, 10 a.m. Attendees D. Lawson, C. Hughes, M. Cole, D. Alston. No explanation, no agenda, just a time, a room, and a quiet promise that something was about to give. I arrived 10 minutes early. David Alston was already there, mid-50s, quiet eyes, gray blazer, no tie. He nodded once as I walked in and handed me a folder without saying a word. Inside, spreadsheets. Logan histories, device access logs, screenshots of email drafts, calendar tampering, a cross-reference showing multiple terminal logins from Carter's assigned access badge, one of which had been used to send the fake Bramwell email. It wasn't circumstantial. It was airtight. Martin walked in next, stone-faced. No handshake, no small talk, just a nod and a seat at the head of the table. We sat in silence for 2 minutes. Then the door opened again, and Carter strolled in like he was late to brunch. No folder, no pen, no apology. He looked directly at me and smirked. That smirk didn't last long. David closed his laptop and spoke first. "Let's begin." He turned to Carter. "In the past 3 weeks, we've observed a pattern of internal sabotage tied to vendor files, calendar systems, and financial reports, all traced to your login credentials or terminals you accessed." Carter gave a tight shrug. "Could have been anyone. People share stations." David didn't blink. "Except your badge was used to unlock them, and we confirmed via time-stamped footage that you were present at the time of those logins." Carter leaned back, arms folded. "So I logged into a shared computer. That's not sabotage." David continued, calm. "And yet someone used that terminal to send a falsified email from Mr. Lawson's account altering critical deal data." I said nothing, just watched. Carter chuckled. "Do you honestly think I have time to fake emails?" "No," David said. "But you had motive and access." Martin finally spoke. "Carter, we recovered metadata logs showing draft saves of the fake email under a cloned profile tied to your cloud directory." "Your IP? Your device?" Carter's jaw twitched. "So what? Someone spoofed it. I'm being framed." David slid a page across the table. "This is a screenshot from your own browser history, pulled via admin override. You visited a vendor pricing sheet in Derek's archive folder 2 hours before the fake email went out." Silence. Carter looked from me to Martin. "You people are really doing this? Over what? A couple calendar entries and a bad email?" Martin didn't raise his voice. "You fired him without cause, then spent the last month trying to make sure he stayed gone. You crossed a line." Carter stood. "You're going to believe him over your own son?" Martin looked him dead in the eye. "No, I'm believing the evidence." David cleared his throat. "Mr. Hughes, effective immediately, your access is suspended pending further board review." Carter froze. "You can't do that." "I can," Martin said flatly. "And I just did." Carter's voice cracked just for a moment. "This is a mistake. I've been trying to protect this company." Martin leaned forward. "No, you were trying to protect your ego, and you almost cost us everything." Carter turned to me one last time. "You think you've won?" I didn't say a word. That was the difference between us. I didn't need to scream or argue or throw anyone under a bus. I'd let him do it all by himself. The room was quiet as he left. No one moved. No one spoke. Martin finally turned to me. "You all right?" I nodded. He stood and offered his hand. "Let's go finish what we started." As I walked out of that boardroom, the air felt lighter. Not because Carter was suspended, but because the truth finally had a paper trail. And this time, I wasn't the one on trial. 2 weeks later, Carter was gone. No announcement, no press release, just a quiet HR memo about executive restructuring and an empty office with the nameplate removed before lunch. A few people asked questions, but no one pushed. The company had seen enough. The only person who called me into their office was Martin. I walked in expecting a debrief, maybe a handshake, and some line about moving forward. Instead, he looked at me across his desk and said, "You showed more leadership than most of the people with actual titles around here." I blinked. "Thanks." "I mean it," he said. "You didn't yell. You didn't threaten. You documented. You held the line. That's not just damage control. That's integrity." I shifted in my seat. "I was just trying to protect the work." Martin leaned back. "That's exactly why I want you to lead it." I froze. "Excuse me?" "I'm offering you the position, Director of Client Strategy. You'll oversee vendor relations, long-term partnerships, and all strategic accounts, including Bramwell. Full control, your team, your hires, your budget." I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him, trying to figure out if this was just compensation or something more. "And no," he added, as if reading my mind, "this isn't a favor. It's a correction," I exhaled, slowly. "I accept. Under one condition," I added. "I want to rebuild the company culture, the way it should have been all along. No more fear, no more games. People need to feel safe doing the right thing." Martin smiled, not the tired smile I'd gotten used to, but something quieter, grateful. "Then let's rebuild it together." We shook hands. That evening, I sat in my temporary office, top floor, south wing, where the light slants in golden after 5 p.m. The nameplate on the door was still blank. They said it would arrive next week. I didn't mind. I didn't need it right away. The desk was bigger than the one I used to have. The carpet didn't squeak. There were no vendor folders cluttering the floor, just clean space and a fresh start. I looked around the room, then opened my laptop and pulled up the org chart. I started sketching notes, people I wanted to bring up, quiet workers, people like Angela in logistics or Noah in compliance. The ones who never played politics, just kept their heads down and did the work. They were the ones I trusted to help me build something better. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. No one was undermining me. No one was leaking emails or whispering in boardrooms. I'd been pushed out, torn down, and thrown away. And now I was back, with the power to make sure no one else would go through what I did. Not on my watch. Change didn't happen overnight, but it happened. My first week as director, I cleared my calendar of vanity meetings and made time for one-on-ones with people 3-4 levels down. I reopened internal feedback channels that had been ignored for years. I sat in the lunchroom instead of the top-floor cafe, and when people asked if they could speak candidly, I said, "I'm counting on it." Word got around fast. Derek's not like the others. He actually listens. He doesn't just talk culture, he means it. I didn't care about fancy slogans or corporate posters. I cared about making it safe to tell the truth. So I made one rule. If someone retaliates for honest feedback, they're gone. No second chances. And I meant it. The first time a team lead tried to ice out an analyst who flagged a billing error, I shut it down. The second time, I fired someone with a director title before lunch. People noticed. Not just that I acted, but that I didn't wait. I called a town hall the following Monday. "I'm not here to play office politics," I said. "I'm here to make sure the best people stay and the toxic ones leave. If that makes some of you uncomfortable, you probably shouldn't be here." No one clapped. They didn't need to. They just nodded. By the end of the quarter, vendor response times were up, partner retention was up, and employee turnover dropped like a stone. Not because I was a genius, but because I gave people what Carter never did, permission to care. A few asked me how I'd stayed strong through it all. The sabotage, the humiliation, the dismissal. I told them the truth. "You don't always pick the fight," I said one afternoon in a small breakout session, "but you do pick who you are in the middle of it." They wrote that down. I didn't ask them to. As for Carter, he vanished. Last I heard, he took a job at a boutique consulting firm in Denver. Word was none of the big players wanted to touch him after the audit leaks. His old friends weren't returning calls. He'd burned too many bridges, some before he even realized he was standing on them. And me, I kept walking those halls. Same pace, same coffee, same core team. But now people saw me. Not just as the guy who came back, but as the one who stayed to clean up the mess, to build something real. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I was just making sure no one else had to carry a box out of the office for doing the right thing. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. I felt respected. I felt ready. I felt free.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.